30-year-old age group to demand that this year's congressional candidates pledge to cut the budget deficit in half in 4 years, or else leave office. The group's founders say some big names are going to join their cause with both support and dollars. I really like the idea of younger people making cutting the deficit their cause. After all, they're the ones who will pay the bills in the future. And I hope they really persist in holding the candidates' feet to the fire. Lou?
Is it really holding their feet to the fire to ask them to do only half the job and take 4 years to do it?
Lou, I'd be satisfied with that. I'd be very happy if they cut the deficit in half in 4 years and we'll go on from there.
And go on from there. We've been going on from there for some time. Myron, thank you. Good to have you back. Well, that is Moneyline for this Tuesday evening. Thanks for being with us. Good night from New York. Crossfire is coming up next, and to tell us what's ahead, here's Michael Kinsley.
Tonight on Crossfire, America's Olympic basketball dream team. Does it represent sport at its finest, or does it symbolize everything that's gone wrong with the Olympics? Commercialization, professionalism, or loss of the sporting ideal? Our debaters will be New York Post columnist Pete Hamill and Tom McMillen, former NBA star, player at the 1972 Olympics, now reduced to scraping a living as a United States Congressman. Join us. We're up next.
For a transcript of Moneyline and many other CNN programs, send $5 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203, or call 303-831-9000.
Coming up, Crossfire, followed by Prime News after this local commercial break here on CNN.
Hello, I'm Dick Van Patten, and I'm holding in my hand a miracle of modern science that will make your indoor and outdoor plants grow, bloom, and flourish. It's Hydratane. Just a capful of Hydratane from this nifty self-measuring bottle, dissolve in a pint of water, and give your friends a drink. A moisture tank forms around the root system that retains water. The plant stores vital fluids and can absorb nutrients that it needs to grow and flourish. This plant was given Hydratane, this one wasn't. Now look, 4 days, a week, even 10 days later, the Hydratane plant looks as happy as the day it was watered. Take it from me, Dick Van Patten. If it grows, it will grow better, bigger, happier with Hydratane. And satisfaction guaranteed. It's Hydratane. Don't wait. Call now.
Call 1-800-257-1257. Hydratane will be your plant's best friend or your money back. Call 1-800-257-1257.
This is CNN.
From Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Mike Kinsley. On the right, Robert Novak. Tonight, Barcelona dreaming. In the Crossfire, Tom McMillen, former Olympic athlete and Democratic representative of Maryland. And in New York, Pete Hamill, columnist for the New York Post.
Good evening. Welcome to Crossfire, the official political debate program of the 1992 Olympic Games. America's basketball dream team, composed of NBA superstars like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, is walloping opponents from places like Angola by margins of 40 points and more. Off the court, though, the dream team's reviews are mixed. Instead of staying in the Olympic Village with America's other athletes, they are in fancy hotels at $900 a night. Some have said they won't wear the official U.S. uniforms at award ceremonies because they're made by Reebok and the athletes are paid by Nike. Our guest, Pete Hamill, wrote a blistering column saying that in its greed and commercialism, arrogance and bullying, the dream team is a nightmare, the epitome of what's gone wrong, not just with the Olympics, but with America itself. 1956 gold medalist in demagoguery Robert Novak will take it from here. Bob?
Mr. Hamill, do liberals like you resent the grace and beauty of the American dream team as they play basketball because you hate to see America winning?
Oh, come on. That's ridiculous, Bob. It's the beauty and the grace is certainly there. There's no getting around that. I just want to see them do it against an NBA team and not against a lot of basically second-rate players from around the world. Competition is what sport is about. It's about going up against somebody who might beat you, When there is no contest, there's no sport. This is not a contest.
Have you watched any of the games yourself by any chance?
I have watched some of them, and then, of course, even NBC fades out of the game now because it's not competitive.
Not if you bought the pay-per-view thing, you get to see the whole game. And a lot of people are very angry that they fade out. You know, I hate to ever quote the New York Times with approval, but the Times editorial says they dazzle with their style and a skill so awesome, but even their opponents don't seem to mind. Isn't that a fact that is just a thing of beauty? You don't have to win by 5 points or 1 point. I've seen some ugly one-point games. These guys are just gorgeous to watch.
Oh, of course they are, and so was Muhammad Ali, but Muhammad Ali did not become a great fighter by beating up featherweights.
Well, we're the best
He had to fight Joe Frazier and have somebody come at him and try to take his heart out of him. He had to go up against the contest in order to prove how good he was.
Joe Louis also fought the bum of the month, and you're probably not old enough to remember that.
I certainly am.
But isn't it a fact that we are the best in the world in basketball, and why don't we put our best out? Croatia puts its best out. They have some NBA players out there. The Puerto Rico has its own team. They have former NBA players. Why? What is there so bad that we have the best basketball players in the world? What's the worry about that?
Well, my feeling is if they're the best professional basketball players, they shouldn't be in the Olympics. I grew up during a period when the Olympics were for amateurs. And even when you went up against these semi-pro communist country teams, you were still going up against some kind of a contest and had to overcome your own doubts about yourself in order to win. I don't think these guys are going to go, Michael Jordan and Magic and all the rest of them, are going to someday be old and take the medal out and say, God, remember that great victory over Angola by 58 points? That's nothing to brag about.
Let's bring Tom McMillen in here. Tom, let's go through Pete Hamill's complaints in his column one at a time. His main complaint is it's just sort of unsporting to put the dream team against teams that are surefire losers by 40, 50 points.
Well, I agree with Bob. I think the Olympics is about the best players from a country being represented in a world forum. Every other country in the world is sending its pros to the Olympics. Why shouldn't the United States?
Well, what about his other point then, that there's something about the reaction, the sort of gloating American reaction? Let me quote a sentence from his column. We've lost something that made the world respect and envy us, and we've replaced it with swaggering arrogance of a bully. That we're sort of feeling, gosh, we're sick of these foreigners picking on us, therefore we're sort of getting too much glee out of what is really a foregone conclusion.
Well, you know, there are many games, for instance, in the Winter Olympics that we do not dominate the United States and that we have to take our comeuppance. In basketball, we clearly are the best. We dominate, and we should show the world that we're the best.
Isn't there something different here, Mr. Hamill? You know, just to continue the line that Mike had, in your column, you said the sickest aspect is that many Americans seem to be enjoying this spectacle. I'm one of the Americans, Mr. Hamill, who enjoys this spectacle very much. What is?
And I'm surprised at you, Bob, because you and I are roughly the same age. We grew up in an America where we rooted for the underdog, where we rooted for the Dodgers to beat the Yankees, the small guy to knock out the big guy, the claiming horse to beat Whirlaway. That's the country we grew up in. When did we start rooting for the upper dog? What's that about?
Listen, a lot of your fellow citizens rooted for the Yankees for years. Don't give me that baloney. They've rooted for Notre Dame. There's a lot of overdoggery in the American spirit, I guarantee you.
Well, I never met a Yankee fan until I was too old to care. Not any more than I met Republicans in my neighborhood either. But I'll tell you, the Dodger fans were rooting to hit the Yankees on the chin and win.
Mr. Hamill, in your column, you kind of betray where you're really coming from. You hated the United States kicking the communists out of Angola. You hated the Americans kicking Noriega out of Panama. You hated the bombing of Iraq. You just hate to see America win. Isn't that a fact?
That's baloney. With Noriega, for example, I don't think anybody can justify that.
You put in your column.
As the bloodiest drug arrest in history. And a kidnapping at that. I don't see how that can be justified by anybody. That's not the country Thomas Jefferson put together.
You know, the American people were delighted to see us stand up for our rights and to see them liberate the people of Panama.
Stand up for our rights?
Yes. You just hate to see Americans victorious. I think you should admit it to yourself.
Like everybody in America, I cheered when the American hockey team beat the Russians in Lake Placid. I thought that was a victory over overwhelming odds. I certainly love my country as much as anybody else does. But I don't like the country that says, I'm big and you're small and therefore I'm good as a consequence of being big. I don't think power is moral. I think we're talking about immoral equivalency here. If they're lousy, they cheat, and they're rotten, then we have to do the same thing in order to live in the world with them. I don't think we have to do that.
Tom McMillen, Bob Novak says he's enjoyed watching these games where the American team slaughters its opponents in foregone conclusions. But he's a well-known sadist. Let me ask you, as a professional basketball player, have you enjoyed these games? Are they, in your mind, a good basketball game, fun to watch?
I've enjoyed watching them. I was on the '72 Olympic team where we really had our medal taken away from us, and I'm pleased to see Americans take it back, and take it back convincingly. This is about the best in the world. You know, Pete referred to his childhood when he cheered for the underdog, but I bet you he always cheered for the American team in the Olympics. That's what this is about.
Including the '72 team.
Mr. Hamill, the one thing that you really don't make any sense on is you say that the Olympics is about amateurs and basketball is about amateurs. And you say yourself, you contradict yourself, that the teams that go out there, the college teams, quote unquote, are really professional teams. They've signed professional contracts. They have professional deals with Reebok and Nike. You know that. You just want to put lesser skilled professionals out than the ones we're putting, and that doesn't make any logical sense.
Well, if that's the case, Bob, and to some extent it really is, then we ought to stop calling this the Olympics, because all the true amateurs who won medals in the past are having their whole careers all denigrated by this. This is the Olympics with an asterisk. This is the money. I mean, do you think Mike Tyson should be let out of jail to go into the heavyweight Olympics?
Well, I don't think he should be let out of jail, but that's another question.
Or Evander Holyfield to go back and get the medal.
I would love to see him. Sure, why not? Because they do cheat the American boxers. And wait a minute, Mr. Hamill, we're going to take a break, and when we return, we will look at the whole idea of what is the Olympic spirit. Does it still exist?
Dream Team is marvelous. And everybody says, well, these guys are rubbing it in too much. And I remember a few years ago when they were saying America's vaunted skill in basketball is overrated. Well, now they've had a little taste of American skill.
These slip down one more time. I'm fed up with glasses that don't fit.
You don't have to put up with glasses that don't fit anymore. Because at LensCrafters, we have so many new ways to make glasses more comfortable.
LensCrafters glasses fit your snug points with features like new snug fit hinges that hug your head and won't lose their gentle hold. LensCrafters, for that cushion of comfort you've always wanted.
I never knew glasses could be this comfortable.
LensCrafters, better fit for greater comfort in about an hour.
In pilot jargon, it's called a walk-around. You see them do it before every takeoff of every plane. What you don't see are their qualifications to fly those planes. It takes them years and thousands of hours of experience, and every year for school and testing. No exceptions. Because when you're a United pilot, you hold a lot more in your hands than just the controls. Come fly the airline that's uniting the world. Come fly the friendly skies.
What's most important to you?
My wife. We've been married for 31 years.
32. Definitely these guys. What's most important? Jack, of course.
My granddaughter, Susan. The new Ford Crown Victoria now offers anti-lock brakes with traction assist and dual airbags. Because shouldn't your car know what's important to you?
Have you driven a Ford lately?
On CNN tomorrow, caught in the violence, what can be done to save the young in war-torn Yugoslavia on Cryer and Company. Then on NewsHour, keeping kids fun, accident-free, playground precautions. All tomorrow on CNN.
Welcome back to Crossfire. What has happened to the Olympics? Professionals have replaced amateurs. Athletes get $100,000 for bringing home a gold medal, and members of America's basketball dream team won't even accept their medals in the presentation ceremony because they would have to wear Reebok instead of Nike. But there was the exultation of unheralded American whitewater rafters and the unforgettable sight of an injured British trackman helped across the finish line by his father, which is the true spirit of the Olympics. Taking an upbeat tone is Democratic Congressman Tom McMillen of Maryland, an Olympic basketball player himself, former University of Maryland All-American, and NBA player. Our critic is columnist Pete Hamill, who used to be an amateur boxer and who slam dunked the Dream Team in a New York Post front page story. Isn't it a fact, Mr. Hamill, that all your yelping about the American NBA players, that the Italian volleyball players who were playing the other night against the United States are guaranteed $100,000 each, and if they get a gold medal, they get another $100,000? Did you know that?
Oh, I know that. Yeah, I think, and our weightlifters will get $50,000 per gold medal, and the Chinese athletes will get bonuses if they do it. But that's the whole point, Bob. This thing has turned into a corrupt commercial mess. Well, if they're going to keep this the way it is, then make it like the World Cup. Have a big, call it the Money Bowl or something, and have it every 4 years. Just don't call it the Olympics.
Well, it's the Olympics. Doesn't say amateur. It doesn't say the Amateur Olympics. It's the Olympics. It's the best in the world. And I'll tell you a secret, Mr. Hamill. I don't want to disillusion you at this point in your life, but in the 1950s, when I was a sports writer and covering track, the top athletes going around the world were getting cash prizes then. Did you know that?
Oh, I'm sure they did. And that, I think, is what made this so easy to do, because we were saying one thing and doing something else. And I think if you're going to say an amateur is an amateur, make him an amateur. And if he's not, make him turn professional. For example, right now, I think all college football players should be paid, just like faculty is paid, and stop the pretense of calling them amateurs.
Tom McMillen, you and I may not remember the 50s as vividly as Bob Novak does, but it certainly must be true that the ideal of amateurism has faded more and more with each Olympics. Now, is there nothing that should be saved from that? Should we just give up and go all the way?
I think it was anachronism for a long time. In the Greek city-states, they paid their athletes to participate. Avery Brundage tried to continue it, but the standard is no longer applicable. Most countries in the world are paying their players. You know, ironically, probably the only true amateurs who are going to the Olympics and not getting paid are our pros, our NBA professionals. So it is a standard that ought to be thrown out. I do, however, agree with Pete that the games have become over-commercialized, and that we ought to do something to make sure that the money is not funneled into building new facilities in Barcelona, new facilities every 4 years around the world, but go to developmental programs for use across the world, helping kids mature as athletes. That's what's wrong, is that the money's not going back into the society.
Well, I don't know. It seems to me, as believers in the free market, as we all are, if you really say amateurism is down the drain, let professionalism flourish, you would say, put together a big pot of money and let the rewards for the players get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll get bigger and bigger and bigger players and better players and better Olympics.
And you do. That's what happens.
I mean, once you say the amateur thing was always a farce, what's to stop you from just saying, well, let's just do that?
Well, these are not real. You're talking about something that I think is a whole other issue, and that is what's government's role in this? The government's created this explosion. It's coddled these NBA and pro franchises and allowed them to exist, and we've created this pyramid, if you will. But the real issue is, how do you get this pot of money, this from sports, and put it back into the world, to the earth's use, so that they can mature and develop as young as people and athletes?
Mr. Hamill, we're not going to settle the amateur professional question, but I think maybe you and I can agree on one thing, and that is that this spectacle has an enormous appeal, that there is the whole idea of sports. I have never seen, you have never seen, never participated in whitewater rafting, some kid from suburban Maryland winning a gold medal by going in a little boat in the water. Isn't this a terrific thing for the world?
Well, I love that particular event for exactly the same reason. These are not guys who are going to cash in and tell everybody that if you don't make a pile of money, you're no good. What I object to are these poor little bonsai trees of girls in the women's quote-unquote gymnastics team, you know, losing and looking wrecked when it's over because they've blown their endorsements.
Let me ask Tom McMillen about exactly that, because that raises another complaint about commercialism you often hear, which is not the money, but the way, especially in a field like girls' gymnastics, they go and they get these girls at a very tender age where they really don't know what's up, and essentially take over their lives.
Right.
And
the dream team,
years go by, and they wake up and suddenly, well, maybe they won a gold medal, or maybe they've just spent 10, 15 years practicing all the
The
time.
dream team, at least, are consenting adults. Whereas these little girls with the eyeliner and the earrings and everything at age 12 trying to look like something that's going to end up on a Wheaties box, they're the saddest people in the Olympics.
That's a lot of ridiculousness. Mary Lou Retton was the greatest American female gymnast. She was a terrific personality. She's married now. She has a nice life. What is all this hand-wringing by professional liberals about the exploitation of these poor little girls? That is the silliest thing I have ever heard in my life.
The silliest thing you've ever heard, Tom McMillen? You ought to have a chance to
There's some of that, but that doesn't bother me as much. I mean, we have exploitation in our inner cities where the young black youth believes that's the only way to escape the ghetto is become a professional athlete. I mean...
Well, right. Doesn't that bother you?
Well, that's delusional. Absolutely. I think that needs to be changed.
And doesn't it bother you that the U.S. Girls Gymnastic Olympics coach was a guy from Romania? Because Romania knows, the communists know how to do this. And he's complaining. He's come over here.
Where'd your parents come from? Are they Indians?
He came over here and he's using communist tactics. In fact, he's complaining. He says, you know, in Romania, you could line up the girls and
that's what we ought to be promoting in the Olympics. Commercialization's here, it ought to be scaled back, but we ought to be promoting a balance, the Greek ideal of mind and body. When we lose that in our society or across the world, we've lost a lot.
And would you say in a field like girls gymnastics that balance is there?
Not always, but it can be maintained. But you know, certainly it's not there in our basketball programs in this country, where people bet their life on the fact that they're going to be an NBA player. And they have a much better chance of being a doctor or a scientist in our country.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to take up the weighty question, why can't the Dream Team stay in the Olympic Village like everybody else?
I'm Cheryl Atkinson. In just a few minutes, a cemetery where babies are being buried becomes a battlefield in Yugoslavia. You'll have a front row seat to view the latest space shuttle maneuvers. And for the first time, President Bush tells exactly why he stopped bombing Iraq when he did. Prime News is right around the corner on CNN.
I was seeing my parents off, and I realized...
Dad, what do you got in here? Gardening equipment?
They've planned their retirement for a long time.
Common sense says the time to plan for your future is today.
One day, it's going to be our turn.
And Fidelity Investments, America's largest mutual fund company, can help you begin.
Debbie? One day, Jeff sat down to figure out how much we'll have for retirement.
How's it going, Einstein?
Very funny. Take a look at
I
this.
thought we were doing a pretty good job. At this rate, we'll never retire.
Over 2 million Americans trust their retirement savings to Fidelity with choices like Magellan Fund. Magellan's approach to stock investing has made it the #1 performing mutual fund for the past 15-year period. So call Fidelity now for this free booklet, a common sense guide to planning for retirement. You'll also receive everything you need to take your first step. Call 1-800-854-6100. Fidelity Investments. Common sense. Uncommon results.
Recently, the International Motorsports Association held a decathlon of performance and control. Over 22 days, 7 cars competed in 10 events to determine which was best overall. It wasn't Acura or Volvo, nor Mercedes or Mazda, nor Lexus or BMW. But the Audi 100 V6, the IMSA Decathlon gold medal winner.
Norma Baith, breast cancer, 8-year survivor.
Elroy Brookshen, lymphoma, 11-year survivor.
Chester Jermakwitz, prostate and bone cancer, 6-year survivor.
Diane Casto, breast cancer, 9-year survivor.
Call 1-800-227-3300. Our results speak for themselves.
Sam Allspaw, lymphoma, 6-year survivor.
Tom McMillen, if these NBA professionals want to participate in the Olympics, why can't they participate like everybody else and stay in the Olympic Village like everybody else instead of in fancy hotel suites?
They should be asked to participate as everybody else. They shouldn't be staying elsewhere. I think those rules should be laid down and abided by.
Okay, well, that's fine. What about the other big question? Should they be allowed either to skip the award ceremonies or appear in the tennis shoes that have or the athletic shoes that have paid them large sums of money. Fundamental. They have to wear the Reeboks like everybody else, which has paid the Olympic team a lot of money.
Fundamentally, what's wrong is because one sponsor's paid a lot to the Olympics, the International Olympic Committee, the American Olympic Committee, United States Olympic Committee. Most of that money is going back to Barcelona to build facilities. I have no problem. I'd rather have the money go to the athlete. So when an athlete stands up and says, look, I want to stand up for my sponsorship, I have no problem with that. I think you're going to have to change the sponsorship rules in the Olympics. More money going back to the athletes, less going to build these massive facilities every 4 years from city to city to city.
Mr. Hamill, we have avoided the burning issue of this program, and that is the conduct of one of my favorite basketball players, Sir Charles Barkley, on the U.S. team. Some skinny little Angolan gave him a shiver, and he gave him the elbow back. And all you liberals in New York are saying he was beating up on this poor, skinny little Angolan. Surely you don't give him the right to begrudge him the right to retaliate, do you?
Well, I wouldn't begrudge Charles Barkley anything, particularly if we're in the same room with him. But to say that being an idiot is a ghetto thing is insulting to all those people out in the ghetto, particularly.
Who are you calling an idiot?
Well, he said it was a ghetto thing, and doing what he did was being an idiot.
Oh, he is He is one of the smartest guys in the league. He is a very clever, funny guy. But is that the idea that these little third world countries can take advantage of the U.S. and even God help us, what you'd say if Barkley were white?
Yeah, like they've done through all of history. Exactly.
I mean, what they want to do.
That's not the point, Bob. What I'm saying is that to do what he did, which was boorish and stupid, and,
it was retaliation.
And in certain ways funny, and to say that it was a ghetto thing is an insult to every kid who is not watching Crossfire tonight but doing his homework.
Have you been to an NBA game
in the ghetto?
Have you been to an NBA game lately?
Not lately. The season's over.
No, you ought to go sometime and see what real life is like.
All right. Thanks a lot, Pete Hamill up in New York. Thank you, Tom McMillan up on Capitol Hill. Bob Novak, I'll be scoring Bob Novak in the diving competition in just a moment.
It's pretty rough up there today. There's always something. Weather, traffic. This means we've got to be in control every minute. Just glad the Honeywell control systems help take care of the navigating. Besides shorter flight times and fuel savings, now we can really focus on flying. Anything that helps lighten our workload isn't a luxury. It's a necessity.
Honeywell, helping you control your world. Have you ever wondered how a professional painter can always get such great results? Because no matter what the job, he'll always start off in the exact same place. At a Sherwin-Williams store, there's only one paint that's good, and there's only one place you can get it. The pros know. Ask Sherwin-Williams.
Now there are cars and trucks that run on clean-burning natural gas.
Yeah, but how clean can it be?
Natural gas reduces the emissions that cause smog by 80%.
Yeah, but what does it cost?
It's like saving 40 cents a gallon on gasoline.
Yeah, but where does it come from?
Natural gas comes from right here in North America.
Yeah, but who makes the vehicles?
America's automakers are turning out fleets of natural gas cars and trucks.
Yeah, but do they come with tinted windows?
Tonight, she lived fast and died young, and on the 30th anniversary of her death, America is still in love with Marilyn Monroe. We talk about it tonight on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
For a transcript, send $4 to Crossfire Transcripts, Journal Graphics Incorporated, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. Or call 303-831-9000.
Mike, there's a nice little test. If you were watching the other night when the U.S. Dream Team bombed Angola, did you have the sense of pain and liberal guilt that you have when the U.S. bombers bombed Baghdad?
I don't even know how to reply to that. I wasn't
Try.
watching. I wasn't watching.
Have you watched any of the games at all?
I haven't watched any of the basketball. I've watched some of the other stuff.
Did you watch any of the bombing of Baghdad?
Yes, I did. I watched it right there.
What did you think of it?
I was not too happy about it, and neither were you, Bob.
I was happy. I was happy at that
You were
point.
against the war, but you liked the bloodshed.
I sure liked America winning because I always like to see America better than anybody else.
You were against the war.
It doesn't make me embarrassed like it makes you.
Policy, but you did enjoy the killing.
You bet.
Well, it's the same with the basketball, I guess. From the left, I'm Mike Kinsley. Good night for Crossfire.
From the right, I'm Robert Novak. Join us again next time for another edition of Crossfire.
Prime News is up next. Let's get a look at the headlines.
Thank you, Michael. Coming up, more tales of horror from besieged Sarajevo. Operation Eager Mace is underway, and the United States is hoping Saddam Hussein is watching. And confronted with more bad economic news, President Bush plays the blame game. That and more just ahead on Prime News.